Hi, welcome to Breakfast with Zeesy. I'm your host, Zeesy Powers, and today I'm speaking live with guests at Palomar 5 in Berlin. Hello. I'm sitting here with Mary. And Mary, you have arrived direct from India.
I arrived directly from Georgia.
From Georgia, okay.
But I was previously in India, yes.
Republic of Georgia or Georgia, USA?
I was in the Republic of Georgia, yeah. I was doing a media training.
Interesting. Now, Georgia's going through some crazy times right now.
That's true. I actually can't comment on those in an intelligent way because I was there for about 3 days.
Okay.
But it's a lovely country.
Wow, that's actually, you know what, I have to say that is, in my world at least, a bit of a rarity to hear somebody actually say, you know, after only 3 days I can't say anything. Because in my world people are like, I had to stop over there for 4 hours. Okay, it's not my world.
This is what's happening.
Actually, that's my attitude. So it's for me, that's really refreshing and interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Were you was it an international group? Like, where were the people coming from you were doing the training?
It was a group of grantees of the Open Society Institute, and they were from different countries in Central Asia, Ukraine, Armenia, Macedonia, and Georgia. But the attitude of saying, oh, I really can't say, is something that they taught us when I was working the Obama campaign, because it was very, like, really, really controlling of information, you know, so they could drive the story. And so basically, most staff, if you're talking to the press, you're like, I'm sorry, I can't comment. So they trained us pretty well to do that.
Interesting. So what do you think about Obama's Nobel Peace Prize?
Oh my goodness. I think...
Can you not say?
I actually was thinking, can I say? I mean, I think it's definitely surprising because I think it's even been acknowledged that the prize is for his good intentions and basically spreading goodwill, which is a little unusual. I was surprised because when I found out about it, at first I didn't think it was real. I thought it was a joke. But then and then I went online and I found that, you know, through Facebook and Twitter that people in my peer group also were really surprised, even though they're very liberal and supporters of Obama.
You worked for the campaign and it was surprising to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is not an Obama detractor. This is definitely an Obama
definitely a
supporter.
It's surprising that he would get it 9 months into his presidency.
Yeah.
I think most people agree with that.
Yeah, I would concur on that. It's sort of like a very question mark kind of statement, like sort of something that seems like a blessing, but may actually be a bit of a, like, less productive than it was intended to be.
Yeah, I mean, the Nobel Prize is very European, and obviously Europe in general, though it's dangerous to generalize, but Europe in general is very anti-Bush, is very pro-Obama. So it seems like it's maybe more a reflection of the personal opinion of the members of the committee and the people in their countries than it is of Obama's actions so far. Not that he might not deserve a Peace Prize in a few years, but right now it's quite early.
Interesting. I guess the last thing I'd want to ask you about is just sort of what on earth were you doing in India?
I think the most interesting project I was working on in India is a new social network for citizens. So it's possibly the first social network for citizenship promotion outside of North America and Europe. And the goal is to have, it's run by a group called Janagraha, and they're going to have offline organizers and then an online social networking space. And the idea is actually to help Indians to become change makers and enforce government accountability. And it's a really ambitious, interesting project. That was, I think, one of the most interesting things I was doing in India.
So from on a ground level, because I have no concept of what Indian society is like to actually be there, and I understand that it's like a rapidly changing culture. It's a rapidly progressing culture. But how is access to the internet going to work for disseminating this information throughout different class groups, different ethnic groups, different regions? Well,
in most of the world, the internet is a phenomenon of the upper and middle class, and that is true also in India. But historically the middle class has also played a very important role in all of the world in supporting democracy and enforcing government accountability. So there, the technology and the audience are a good match. But I don't think this is a tool that is going to solve the basic problems of basically the manipulation and disengagement of the rural poor in Indian politics. But I mean, the platform, the goal is, it's not the goal, so they know that.
The goal is totally, it's to reach the
people that can be reached using the internet.
Interesting, great. Well, very exciting to hear about you, what you've been working on, and your perspective, because it's definitely a different one from something I hear every day.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mary. Thanks a lot. Hi, I'm sitting here with Eddie right now. Eddie, you're currently of Brisbane.
Correct.
That's Australia.
That's correct.
All right. So Australia is actually the opposite side of the world. Doesn't matter where you live. Australia is the opposite side of the world. Do you feel like the rest of the world is backwards?
I feel the rest of the world is still catching up with us because we're moving forward. It depends how you look at the world. You guys see yourself as the northern hemisphere, but we see ourselves as the northern hemisphere. You guys are the dirty southerners. So.
Interesting. Well, why couldn't we just be the dirty northerners and you guys are the powerful south?
I don't know.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So do you feel like you're actually not like a local kind of guy? Like you've been highly mobile in your life.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about how do you think that the geographic isolation of Australia has affected the mentality of the culture? Because it's it really is like an immigrant culture. It's not like Europe.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So let me clarify the question you were just asking. Right?
Perfect.
Right. You were asking me, how has Australia's geographic isolation affected its identity?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Identity. That's the word. Amazing.
All right. If you gotta sort of look back at, I guess let's start with the history lesson first. Right? Australia, in its present-day form, has only been around just over 100 years, 1901.
That's like nothing.
That's nothing, right?
That's like an infant nation.
So in terms of identity, we're only 100 years old. We haven't even had sex yet, do you know what I mean? So we still have no idea who we are. In relation, like prior to 1901, we were just convicts coming from England and stuff. So I think that has maybe in some way, I'm not sure how, but it has probably, that was the soil that planted the current.
Now, please clarify this convicts thing.
Yeah.
Because I think people hear convicts and they assume like murderers and rapists, but is that actually the case?
No, it's a whole, like petty crime all throughout the world. Mainly like sort of from the Commonwealth countries.
I'm under the impression that it was also a place where they would put political dissidents as well.
Yes, whole kinds of dissidents.
So you're not actually just talking about like scum, but you're also talking about people who were probably on the intellectual vanguard.
Probably. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest. Aussies don't know a lot about their history, and I don't want to sit here and like pretend I know.
That's an interesting statement in and of itself, though.
Aussies are so politically, culturally apathetic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it because things are so good?
That, and we're so young, and the current generation coming in today, everyone is half this, half that, from this, so there's no kind of strong connection with Australia itself, which is a problem, especially with the indigenous side of things. No one cares about. I mean, we are 100 years old, but we're actually 10,000. Like, the Aboriginal people have been around in Australia, and that culture isn't celebrated, looked after at all, which really pisses me off.
Yeah. You, however, get the same thing in North America as well.
Yeah.
Although I have heard Australia is particularly
pretty bad.
Bad at that.
FYI for you.
Yeah.
The country island of Tasmania, when they first came to Australia, they killed all the Aboriginals in Tasmania. Complete genocide. It's one of our like secret sort of historical documents.
That's pretty messed up.
So
that's pretty disgusting.
if you go to Tasmania,
What I always do is first.
So, and no one knows about it. No Aussies even know about this fact. It's really.
Do you feel like there's a move to change that though? To educate people?
Oh yeah. When Kevin Rudd, who is our Prime Minister, he became Prime Minister in 2007, and one of his first initiatives was the Sorry campaign, which was a day to apologise to the Indigenous population about the stolen generation. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Residential schools, which also happened in Canada. It's like a black stain on our history.
Yeah. So he apologised for that, although it's just a symbolic, thing. And I'm sure lots of good things have happened as a result. I think that really, John Howard, the previous Prime Minister, just didn't want to say it.
He was a bit of a... Anyhow.
He was quite conservative.
Eddie, my final question. What exactly do you do with your time?
I still don't know.
Okay.
And I think many people are like that here.
Yeah.
So, I guess one term I came up with, and I kind of borrowed from worldchanging.com. They talked about this thing called attention philanthropy. That is giving knowledge, spreading the word about good causes, good movements out there, and I suppose that's what I'd like doing.
Cool.
Being an attention philanthropist.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me for breakfast.
No worries.
And we're gonna keep partying over the next 6 weeks. A party for
wackos.
our minds.
Yeah. Yay!
Amazing. Thanks a lot.
No worries.
Hi, welcome back. I'm sitting here with Jay.
Hello.
Now, Jay, you are from the United Kingdom.
That's correct.
How does it feel to be part of a nation that was at one time responsible for the world we see today and is now just like a place where soccer hooligans live?
Well, that's a bit of a stereotype. It's easy to be fair.
Maybe it depends on what part of the country you're from.
Well, I guess it depends quite greatly on your national perception.
I have several British people who are totally about to punch me in the head, and if I'm lucky, there's like an Irishman who's like, yeah, somewhere in the corner.
Not at all. I mean, we obviously bear the burden for a lot of colonialism and imperialism and everything else, but we weren't alone in Europe in that respect.
This is very true. This is very true.
The Americans have certainly taken on the mantle of imperialism from us now. So, but every country bears that guilt. But as for the hooligans, it's very much how we're perceived abroad, sadly, and is something that we actually struggle with as a nation to kind of express the realities of the United Kingdom, which is that it's a real melting pot because we invaded so many countries and we were very imperialistic. We brought all of those cultures back with us. So as a result, the United Kingdom doesn't even really anymore have a national dish as such. Our national dish is curry. So, and that's a real reflection of sort of how we've moved as a culture. So.
Well, on the topic, I guess, of like English, as a North American, I find that I'm at a real disadvantage because I only need to speak English. And as a result, my other languages, as a Canadian, I had to learn French from a young age, but you actually don't learn it because you're not actually using it in life.
Yeah.
Do you, even though you're part of the European community, as an Englishman, do you find you're at a disadvantage because of English, or do you find that you have gained something else through it, like English?
Well, it's a double-edged sword. Obviously, it means that we can communicate with pretty much everybody without a lot of effort, but at the same time that makes us very lazy. So it actually makes it harder to learn a new language because people tend to slip back into English, and you really have to kind of force yourself to be in a situation or find people that don't speak English so well if you want to practice something. So I spent 6 months in France, and there was only 2 other people on the resort that actually actually, spoke French or spoke English so badly that I could actually speak French to them and then have the patience with me for me to learn French and improve my French. So it can actually be quite difficult in that respect. But there's obviously great advantages because we can talk to pretty much anybody. But that is what makes us lazy at the same time.
So what about the state of English literature today? Like, do you find you read British authors often? Where, like, the books that you're reading, like, how do you think this English's position of supremacy has affected the literary culture?
That's a difficult question. I don't tend to actually look at the nationalities of the authors that I read. If it's written in English, then it's written in English. But I wouldn't seek out a British author because they're British, so I don't really actually pay much heed, to be honest.
Interesting. Do you read novels, or do you find yourself reading non-fiction more?
It depends on my particular mindset at any given moment. I'll go through splurges of reading non-fiction books around specific topics, and then other times, you just want a good shitty fiction that'll take you away. Other times you might want something a bit more sophisticated and deep. I guess it's like watching films or documentaries or anything else. You need to get a balance of it to actually have a healthy intellectual diet.
Cool.
You can overdose on any one thing. You've got to balance the nutrients, I guess.
Okay. Final question. What exactly do you do?
That's the hardest question you've given me. I guess I describe myself as an inventor / entrepreneur, but I don't really like the word entrepreneur. I prefer one who does things. So presently I'm here obviously in Palomar 5 looking to explore the future of work, but outside of that I'm earning money as a consultant, and the rest of the time I'm setting up an open innovation business within Berlin, and the idea is to still working on the process but establish a means of developing products without requiring intellectual property, but still ensuring that the designers and participants in the process are appropriately rewarded for that.
Okay, interesting. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how that unfolds. And as a Canadian citizen, I'm really excited for you to help me get my British citizenship. Gateway to the EU. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This has been Breakfast with Zeesy. I'm still here at Palomar 5 with Jay, and bon appetit.
Merci bien.